Hey, this is Andy with Rocket City Pinball. If you've purchased one of my larger 3D start buttons that comes with the full housing assembly with the intention of replacing this older, smaller type, in almost all cases the installation is already covered by one of my other videos, because in most cases you'll have spade terminals that hook up to the bulb, and possibly on the micro switch itself, or you'll have spade terminals that hook up to the bulb and maybe soldered wires and maybe even a diode on the micro switch itself. Now, it's recently come to my attention that Spooky Pinball, for example, also solders the bulb wires on their assembly. Now let me show you why this matters. So on my assembly, this piece right here is the bulb socket and the holder for the micro switch, and this housing and this bulb socket switch holder are a matched set. It has these little tabs here, and it has little grooves that you can see right here, and the size of these match on my assembly, but the size is slightly different on these older assemblies, so you can't just pull your old one out and stick it in mine. It doesn't fit like that. So in order to make this work, you have to move your wires and your switch over to my new green piece here. So on the old ones, it's not really an issue because you can typically just remove the spade terminals and move them over to the new one, and then you can move the micro switch and put the whole micro switch that's already wired, even if it's soldered down here, you could just move the whole micro switch over to the new housing. That works. But in a case where it's actually soldered, that becomes an issue because now you have to get these wires over to the new assembly. Now, if you're experienced with soldering and you're comfortable soldering, then it's no problem because you can just desolder these wires and move them over. But if you're not comfortable soldering or you don't have the equipment, then you need a different method. So I'm going to demonstrate a different method for you here, where essentially you're going to end up just cutting these wires off and adding spade terminals to the end here. I'll walk you through the whole process here of doing the whole assembly installation so you don't have to go back and watch the other videos. So let me show you how this is going to work. So this is representative of the type that has the spades, so we're not concerned with that. Different video you can reference for that. Alright, so in this particular case, so here's your smaller recessed button. I have this gray piece here. This is my analog for your cabinet. So the first thing you're going to do, we're going to pretend that the micro switch itself is wired up. So pretend there are wires here. I didn't need them for this demonstration because we're going to leave these wires intact. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to rotate this switch and pull it out. Okay. In some cases, it might not be a rotate and pull. In some cases, it's actually just a pull straight out. So if you try to twist it and you meet some resistance, you can try pulling it just straight out. So first thing you'll do is you'll pull that out, and you can just kind of let that hang for a minute because we need to take this switch off of the cabinet. You'll see there's a big plastic nut on the back here. It may be kind of tight, so you might need to get on there with a wrench of some kind, but once you break that loose, then you can unthread this large nut. And then the whole button can push out through the front of the cabinet. So again, this is representative of the cabinet. There's a little counter board there usually that allows this to sit recessed inside there. Now what you would do, so let me get that out of the way. Then what you would do is you take the new one that you just purchased and take that out. I usually recommend that you remove whatever bulb was in your switch and put it in the new one. Alright, so you'll remove this nut that's attached on the back here, and then you're going to install this assembly onto your cabinet. So you'll note that the larger housing, your larger housing is actually going to cover up that whole counter bore, so you won't even see that hole in the cabinet anymore. And then you come back inside and then you thread the nut on the back. Alright, so now at this point you now have your new switch installed on your cabinet. But now we got to deal with the wiring. So first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to take the old micro switch out of your old assembly. So remember, you've got wires coming off here that are soldered on. You need a little flat screwdriver, and you're going to get this out of the way here. So you'll see here's the housing. Sorry, it's kind of bright here. So here's the housing, and you can see that the micro switch is a separate piece. So what you need to do is you get your a little flat screwdriver and you just kind of pry this up, and you'll see there's a little tab in there. And once you pry it up, then you can push on the switch and it should rotate out like that. Okay, so now you see it's loose. and then you just rotate it the rest of the way out like that. Okay, so now your micro switch will be loose. This is the part of the switch that when you push the start button, it pushes this in and makes the connection inside, and that's what tells it to send the signal and start the game. All right, so this has wires on it that go to your game. We're gonna take that, and you need to transfer that over to your new assembly. So you'll notice that there's the holes there, and you'll notice the new socket and switch holder also has little nubs, similar nubs that your other one had. So you just have to make sure that you line it up properly. So in this case, it's going to go this way, and you have to make sure that the push button part faces towards the bulb, because the button is going to push in this direction. So you start by putting it on the inside nub, and then you rotate it into place, and it should snap in like that. Okay, so you can look at it from the side. You see you got your little nubs lined up here. So now it's in. Okay, so again, you've got your wires coming off that go to your game, but this is your original switch. Okay, now the whole reason for this video. So let's say you have solder. Sorry for the little jump cut there. I bumped the phone and turned off the video by accident. So yeah, again, so the whole reason for this video was for if you have a housing that has the wires for the bulb that are soldered on. So once again, if you're comfortable with soldering and you have the equipment, then it's as simple as desoldering the wire here and transferring it over to here, and then same thing on the other side. Desolder it here, transfer it over here, solder it there, so no problem. But if you don't have that equipment, or you're not comfortable soldering, then your next option is you're just going to cut these wires off of here, and we're going to add little spade terminals on. These are 16 to 22 gauge spade terminals. They come in most little electronics kits. You can get them at your local hardware store or online or wherever. Now that I'm aware that the Halloween button needs them, I'm going to start including a pair of these with the kit. And if I come across any other games that I sell start buttons for that need this as well, I'll include them for there, because, you know, courtesy to have them. So it's pretty simple to do. You're going to need your little wire cutters. So I'm just going to come in here. I'm just going to cut the wire right behind the lug there. Okay. And then I'm going to come around to the other side and cut it off here as well. Okay, so now your old switch is no longer needed. Okay, and then you need to strip the ends here to get some fresh wire that you can put into the spade terminal. So I'm going to get my little wire stripper here. Okay. That's one. And two. Okay, so now I've got fresh wire exposed. And now the only other thing that you'll need besides your cutters and your strippers are some crimpers. Sorry, off camera here. Okay, so I've got my crimpers, and I'm just going to feed my wire right in there and give it a good crimp. Okay, got a good crimp there. Oh, sure don't have a good crimp. Let's try that again. Okay, maybe I need to include 3 in the kit just in case we mess it up like I just did. Alright, let's try again. That felt like a good one. Okay, that one's good. I'll grab one more. Okay, got a whole bag of them. Thank goodness. Okay, there we go. So now that you have your wire that you cut off and you crimped your new terminals on, all you then do is you come over to the switch, that the little housing that you put your switch in, and it's as simple as sliding the spade terminals onto those lugs right there. So there's one, And there's 2. So as you can see by my demonstration there where I miscrimped it the first time, you know, soldering is a better way to do it if you can, if you have the equipment, but if not, this is a viable option. So then you simply take your switch and pop it in, rotate, and you're in. And you can see how pushing the start button, see the white legs of the inner piece that push against the micro switch. So it's simple as that. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or issues with this process. Sorry for the extra step, but it's, you know, Spooky decided to solder those on, so we need to find a workaround to help out folks that aren't comfortable soldering. So happy to help you. Reach out if you need to. Website's rocketcitypinball.com. Thanks for watching, and thanks for your purchase.